There's certainly some weight to this package, but I've got a good idea what's inside it because I was sent a list of parts. This is the modulus amplification kit to build a Fender 5F1 Tweed amplifier. And inside here are all the electronics and all the hardware. The case hasn't arrived yet because they did say there's between a 2 and a 4 week wait for that. So I'll pay that no mind. I'm just going to open the box and see what's inside. Nice to see a good layer of paper inside. Let's lift the top off. And there's some wire. Standard fare and some heat shrink tubing as well, which is useful. That'll be the mains lead. Looks like there's a strain relief as well on there, which is what you would expect. This is the eyelet board on a nice piece of, a decent thick piece of resin coated or resin plastic or whatever, but that's the eyelet board. Now in here, this looks like the chassis, and there looks to be some components inside that as well. So we'll open that one up in a minute. Another layer of paper. It's very nicely laid out, this box actually. It's all neat and tidy. And we have underneath here, that feels like it might be a heavy duty transformer in there. And that feels like a less heavy duty transformer. That'll be our output transformer. And I think that's the lot. There we go, there's our output transformer, dated April 2021. Well, that's nice. There's a good, decent length of cable on those. So hopefully you're not going to make a mistake wiring this up. And I guess as well, this is also designed that if you were going to build a Champ in maybe a larger cabinet, or even have a larger chassis, or even, you know, mount the transformers separately in a different part of the casing just to keep the noise down a little bit, if that's a problem, then having decent wires on the transformer will help. That's going to be our 240 volt input, and then we've got our taps on the output. Pretty sure the reds are the HT, the 400 plus volts. Then we've got some other taps here which are going to be the wires for the heaters, and there's probably a center tap there as well. So anyway, I will check all that. I'll check all that out later, but that's our mains transformer. This looks like a bag of bits. I can see jack sockets. That's going to be our on-off switch and volume control. There's a chicken type knob there. There's some valve bases. There's our light fitting in there. There's a fuse and a fuse holder. So yeah, that's most of our sockets and fittings there. That looks like some sort of input valve. That's a JJ ECC83 or 12AX7 ECC83S on there. So that's our preamp valve. These are our high voltage capacitors. They're not as big as I thought actually. I thought they would be physically bigger, but no. I would say that's only 8 microfarad. This one is 8 microfarad, and this one is 16 microfarad. So there are smoothing caps and our other HT capacitors there. This looks like a bag of resistors, and yeah, it's nice that they've all been labelled actually. One thing I always do if I'm doing a big project like this, you know, I always check and double check, and I actually always stick these across a meter before I put them in, just to make sure that they're all okay and they're all the right values. And in here are our main valves. This looks like a 5Y3S, which I think is our rectifier. I know it's our rectifier. And this should be a 6V6, and that's our output valve. I've never actually had a 6V6 in anything I've owned, I don't think. This is our chassis, and this is one of the things you pay for when you buy a kit, because if you're as bad at metalwork as I am, you don't want to have a go at making this yourself. And Looking at this, that's an absolute beauty. That is stunning. Beautiful brushed aluminium. We'll have our valves will be mounted there. Our output jack socket will be there. 2 input jacks here. Volume control with on-off switch there. This is the sort of project that if you take on, you check and you triple check on everything, particularly with things like cutting the wires on the transformers, because if you don't get that absolutely spot on, then you know you might have to go and buy another transformer, or you might have to put extensions on it, and that's all very messy and very fiddly. I think the secret to this whole thing is it's as much about keeping everything as clean and tidy as possible as it is about the finished result. Anyway, I'm in no rush for any of this, so I'm just going to take my time with this. If you hear a bit of wind, it's because I've got the door open. I just want to show you this. That's the mains cable coming in, and this is the grit that's supposed to hold it in. But look, there's no friction, no grit. And if we turn it over, that's just one big hole. There's just one big hole there that holds the mains cable in. That is not cut to fit one of these. That, I have to say, is a bit rubbish. And this is why I think on this type of amp, if it had an IEC mains connector, ideally a fused one, which you may just be able to fit inside there, although, I mean, it is a bit tight. However, bearing in mind the cabinet's wider than the chassis, why they couldn't have made the chassis slightly wider, and then, or you could even maybe pop it on the side somehow, I don't know. But that is rubbish. What I'm going to have to do is I will put some tie wraps around there just to keep it in place so it doesn't fall out. Now, according to the circuit diagram, the mains comes in and goes into the fuse. I put the mains through the bottom of the fuse because if you need to change the fuse, the safest way is, you know, you should turn it off and unplug the amp. But if for some reason this amp gets taken out, if you unscrew the fuse and pull it out, as soon as you start to take it out, the live is completely disconnected. Some people say you should wire it the other way around. The problem with that is the mains is on the ring of the fuse holder, and that will mean you could potentially get an electric shock. Now, the main difference between British amps and American amps is about 120 volts. In the UK, we're 230, 240 volts. In America, they're around 110, 120. So if you were going to get an electric shock in America, it probably won't kill you. If you were to get an electric shock in the UK, you got a very good chance of dying. That's why all the mains I've put heat shrink on. Okay, you can still get a whack from there if you put your pinky on it while it's got mains on. Chances are you're not going to be in that position, but I've put heat shrink on it. And the other thing I've done, the circuit said you take the live through the fuse, correct, but then you take the other side straight to the transformer and you run the neutral to the switch and you have the neutral going into the transformer. Yes, that'll work. But if you had a broken switch, you have still got live mains electricity going through the fuse, down this wire, or down that wire, into the transformer. That to me is not safe at all. So I'm running the mains into the fuse. The fused supply goes into this switch. The mains out of the switch then goes into the transformer, and the neutral is going directly to the neutral of the transformer. That is how I would wire anything like this up. Here's another little tip if you're planning on building this, or any other amplifier for that matter. If you want to wire the jack sockets and you want to make it nice and tidy, and you've got to do things like put a 1 meg resistor on the low gain input, then, or the high gain input I should say, then if you mount the jack sockets on the outside of the amplifier, do all your wiring, When you put them inside the amplifier, then everything will be neat and tidy. So that's exactly what I've done here. Here's our two jack sockets, and they are very mechanically quite strong. Things you should never do on camera. Okay, there's our two sockets, look, and there's our 1 meg resistor. These are the two input wires, and that's our ground wire. And as long as I don't drop it again, that will fit perfectly in the amplifier. And there we have our two jack sockets in place, and they're nice, neat and tidy on the inside too. As it stands, this is our chassis. I've mounted the pilot light that will be powered from the 6 volts for the heaters. I've tidied up our mains a little bit. As I said, the mains comes in here, goes through there, comes along here, goes into the switch, goes into the transformer, and the neutral goes to the neutral. There's our grounding earth there. I found the hole where the earth lug was. I think in the diagram actually said it was over here, but that's where the hole is. These are the two mounting holes, mounting lugs for the circuit board. This thing here, which will sit inside there. There's our speaker output. This is our wires that go to the output transformer, and these are our jack inputs. So we're gradually getting there. Everything seems fairly tight, even though we don't have many shake proofs. I will get some washers and things for the on-off switch, and I'll put some shake proofs in there, so once that's in place it won't move. Board is coming along quite nicely, but just take a look at this. These are the 0.022 microfarad capacitors. As you can see, they only just fit. So whether that was just a shortage of supply or not, I don't know. But I don't know whether to just extend them slightly to make them mechanical, or just see if they fit. We'll have a look and we'll see what we can do. Here I got the ends of these capacitors and just wrapped them around the resistor legs so that they made the length. It is annoying though that they weren't long enough. And this resistor here, I had to extend it with some tin copper wire because that one was too short as well. The eyelet board is now in place. I think it's not too bad looking job. Everything looks fairly straight and neat and tidy. Right, we're now at the testing stage. Now everything's been assembled. The first thing I'm going to do is test the voltage of the heaters to make sure they're correct. Now, what I tend to do is I hook up my multimeter to what I'm going to test. The amp is switched on, and then I will go and plug it in, check the voltage and unplug again. I don't like clipping on voltmeters to something while the thing's switched on. Keep your hands out of the way, as far away as possible. So this is our first test. And we've got 6.5 volts AC, which is pretty much exactly what I would expect. So I'm going to turn this off now. The next thing I want to test are the HT rails. So the first HT rail, I will take the meter to ground, and I will then clip onto here, and it's got to be DC. And obviously I need to have the rectifier valve in place as well, so I'm going to plug that in. Not 100% sure what the voltage is supposed to be, but 476 appears a little bit high for what I would expect. I was advised by the builder of this kit that that high voltage actually goes down when the valves are in the amp. So what I've done is I've put all the valves in, I've connected up a speaker, and I've connected up a tone generator. And so hopefully we might get some sound out of this, all being well. But I've got the volume turned down at the moment just so that I can do this test. So I'm now going to put the power on and hope nothing blows up. Oh, we've got hum coming out. And the voltage is coming down, which is what I would expect under load actually. And we've got an amp that hums, but we've got an amp that works. So yeah, that's great news. Not happy about the hum, but there are a few things that you can do which I haven't done, and some of my signal wires are mixed around with the ground wires and things, so I might actually reposition. But yeah, 398 volts, that's slightly high. I've got the guitar plugged in now, got me Gretsch. I'm just going to switch him on. And yeah, I will go through and sort out some of that. Yep, so there we go. One of the first things I've done here is all the wires going to the preamp valve I have now shortened, and the resulting factor is I can turn the volume up full and I've got no oscillation whatsoever. So I'm just going to plug the guitar in now and just double check that. Yeah, that goes to full welly and there's no oscillation, so that's a good little fix. That I think now I might see if there's any way I can shorten any more wires. A few weeks have passed now and there's another box to unbox, and inside here we have this. Let me just turn him over. And in all the bubble wrap, okay, so that's our cabinet for the Champ. It looks exactly as it should do, and you see it's got a nice leather tweed handle to match the tweed, and the back. This panel I'm going to have to remove in a minute. Nice solid pine construction. You can smell the wood actually. Well, you can't smell it on camera, but yeah, it's a really nice cabinet, that. And to go with this in this box here, which I've actually taken the liberty of already wiring up, we have this. This is a Jensen speaker, which is seems to be well known to being suitable for the Champ, the 8-inch speaker, and I use some of the leftover cable, wired a jack to it. Now, before I put the speaker in, of course, we want to do one more thing, and that is to drill 2 holes there so I can mount the amp chassis. Now, I have a little template here which should be exactly what I need for doing this, and it says here fold along this line, and then that should be in the right correct position. Now I'm still not going to drill any holes yet because I've got some masking tape here, and what I'll do with the masking tape is I will peel some off and I will do that, and I'll do the same on this side. And the idea is by putting masking tape down first that you're going to have less risk of actually ripping any of the covering on the now see the amp in place, and you might notice some of these wires I did some more modification to get them a little bit more shorter. I probably could actually get them even shorter still, but the idea was that the shorter the wires are, then the less problems you get with hum and mains interference. Anyway, let's pop this back on. And I've got one more thing I'm going to show you. I spotted this on eBay. And it may be a little bit big, I'm not sure. But I'll get the hot glue gun out in a minute and we'll have that. And here we have it. This is my little Champ, all finished, all done. And I thought I would give you a little demo of the sound. Now I'm over at a studio today because I really don't want to be blasting out guitar where I live in my little flat. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you a sound. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try a couple of different guitars. First guitar I've got is an 80s Stratocaster with lace sensor pickups in. My kind of favourite Fenders really are the 80s Strats. And I've got the volume control almost at halfway. It's at number 5, or what would that be on about 11 o'clock. That's using the main bridge pickup, and if I go to position 2, and move it towards the middle. So it's just kind of breaking up at that point. You might hear a little bit of hum. Yes, it's a single-ended amp. The power transformer and the output transformer are quite close, so it's picking up a bit of mains noise on there. But once you start turning it up, you really don't notice, and you certainly don't notice it when you're playing anyway. So I'm going to turn the amp up a bit more now. I'm going to turn this up to about 1 o'clock, or number 7 on the dial. So yeah, it's really starting to break up nicely now. I'm in the 3rd position. I'm going to go back down to position 1 again. So yeah, that's sounding good. I'm now going to whack it right up to position 10. And yeah, you can hear a bit more hum. Now, one of the things with these amps, as I've been reading up, is if the signal wires are grounded from one end, it does cut down a lot of the sort of internal hum. So I'm going to do that as a mod. I've ordered some cable, and if it does make a big difference, then I'll probably pop up a follow-up video. But anyway, this is position 10 with the using the bridge pickup. So I'm going to turn the camera volume down a bit. So this is the guitar using volume number 10, using the bridge pickup on the Strat. So yeah, I love that. That's like got proper good crunch. And now I'm going to wind it all the way up to full welly. There you have it. Strat, Fender Champ, cranked right up. I think my personal favourite tone is probably bringing it down a bit. I think it almost feels like it's breaking up too much at that sort of full level, but for that level it's great. I'm going to try it on the bridge position. So that's it with a Strat. What does it sound like with a Les Paul type guitar? This is my Epiphone Les Paul, which I've had since 2011, I think. I have DiMarzio DP100s on here. They're my preferred pickup of choice for a Les Paul. I actually had these on an Epiphone Ace Frehley signature model, which I had in about 2009, 2010. And that was a great guitar. I absolutely loved it, but I didn't like the fact it had a Kiss logo on the headstock, and I got rid of it. And I kind of regret it because it was a brilliant, brilliant Les Paul. However, this Les Paul Standard's pretty damn good, and I do love these pickups, so it's my go-to Les Paul type guitar. Would I ever buy a Gibson? I probably wouldn't, because they are just so expensive, whereas, you know, you can still buy one of these for like 400 quid, put in a couple of DiMarzios, 600 quid, you've got yourself a great guitar. Anyway, as an exact comparison, I've now got this set at position 4, as it was on the first test, I think 4 or 5, and this is using the bridge pickup. So yeah, it's breaking up a lot more, obviously, because these are high output pickups as well, but if I just roll off the gain a little bit, actually what I'll do is I'll keep that wound up and I'll plug into channel 2, which is the less sensitive input. So yeah, you get a pretty good clean tone on that. I might just whack the volume up a bit to halfway. So yeah, that's sounding quite crunchy. I'll go back into input 1 now, and I'll whack it up to 10 o'clock. So this was like the full welly position that I had the Strat on. That is a great, I love that. I mean, I don't know how it's going to come across on camera. All I've got is a 58 just in front plugged into the camera, but in the room that sounds massive. Well, I'm going to whack it up to full welly now, so this is full power. So yeah, like the Strat, I think that's just a little bit too much. It's almost like it's sort of pushing the amp beyond what it can do. So I think the sort of position 10 is optimal. I hope that gives you an idea of what the Champ sounds like on its own. But as I've got one here, I'm going to plug it into a 4x12, and then you can listen to it through a 4x12 and see what you think with that. Well, as luck would have it, my Marshall 4x12 is the same impedance as the Champ, and that they're both 8 ohms. So I just plugged the speaker straight in. And so, as per before, this is the 4 o'clock position, sorry, number 4, which is, as you're looking at a clock, yeah, about sort of 10 o'clock-ish. And I'm using the bridge pickup on the Strat again. So that's 4 o'clock, halfway. And we obviously hear a lot more bass with a 4x12. And a lot of people have said if you start building champs and you start putting in bigger speakers, you will lose top end and you'll also probably hear a bit more hum. But as to be said, I can't hear much hum actually. It's less noticeable for me. Anyway, I'm going to turn it up now to the sort of 3 o'clock position, or number 10 on the amp. Lovely, good crunchy sound. Do I prefer it to the 8-inch speaker? I don't know. I think judge for yourself, because what I'm hearing is probably going to sound different to you, particularly if you're not listening on speakers. But in some ways, I think I prefer the sound out the internal speaker. I think if I was to use this with bigger speakers, I would modify the circuit to put a bit more treble into it. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to whack it up to full. So this is now full welly. So that's full level. The level drop you don't notice as much because I'm using a lower output pickup on the guitar. But I think the 10 o'clock, number 10, or the 3 o'clock position, I think is the sweet spot with this amp. Right, we'll now do the same thing with the Les Paul. Got the Les Paul in again. I'm back on position number 4, or around about 10 o'clock on the dial, and this is what the Les Paul sounds like. So that's it on that position. If I go to halfway again, now if I wind it up to what I think is the sweet spot around about position 10. Oh yeah, that's cooking. So I think, in conclusion, volume number 10 or 3 o'clock is to me the best sound on this amp, either with a 4x12 or with the 8-inch Jensen speaker that I put in. Personally, if I was going to record, I think I would use the amp as it is. I wouldn't make any modifications to it at all. I really like the sound it produces. If I'm going to use a 4x12, I'm going to use the amp that's on top. I'm going to use the JTM 45 because that's what it's designed for. But the actual Champ, I think, is a brilliant sounding amp. I think if you're playing a gig, like a blues or a rock gig, and you've got a good PA with monitors, everything's mic'd up, you could gig with that no problem. Absolutely no problem at all. And it would sound brilliant. So yeah, this is the end of the video now. Hope you enjoyed my sort of trials and tribulations. As I say, I may modify it. I may replace some of the wires inside for screened wires. and do a couple other things just to try and get rid of some of the hum, because, you know, the hum is quite loud. Although, I say, compared to the volume of the guitar, I mean, you might just hear a bit of hum now. But then if I compare that level to how it is when I play, you know, you're not going to notice it. You're really not. And if you're recording with it, you can edit out all those hums anyway. But anyway, that's it. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like and subscribe my channel. And there will be more stuff coming. I'm in the middle of making a couple of other technology related videos, and I'm going to do some more music related videos and some unboxings and all sorts of stuff like that. So thanks for the support, and catch you on the next one.